Oh, hello, saplings. This is the second lecture in our series, and we have the great honor today of hearing from our speaker, Derrick Pitts, who is the chief astronomer and the director of the Fellows Planetarium at the Franklin Institute. And Derrick, Mr. Pitts, Dr. Pitts, has been actually working at the Franklin Institute since he was in college. He was born in Philadelphia and now lives in Philadelphia. I guess he went away for a little while for some education, but he's a Philadelphia guy. And he has been a great friend of this program. And I consider him a colleague and a friend personally. We've been talking to each other off and on for many, many years now. He is perhaps you know him as a star of television and radio. Those of you who stay up late enough to watch late night TV, he's appeared in just about every late night talking head show there is. And he used to have his own radio program for a very long time called Sky Talk, which is no more. But there is now a web series which is ongoing called A Practical Guide to the Cosmos. And I'll just say as a note, today I know you and I share a love of Kathy O'Connell. Any Philly people here grow up with Kathy O'Connell with Kids Corner on WXPN? You know her? Yeah. So I actually, when I was in graduate school, I used to listen to her all the time when I was in graduate school here. And today is her last radio program ever. So sort of an occasion. Derrick is someone who has achieved the status of solar system ambassador. So if anyone ever comes from outside the solar system to visit us, he's our guy. Or if any of you want to be introduced to Mars, he's your guy. He's the ambassador. He just came back from a trip in Hawaii where he hangs out at the gigantic telescopes they have there to look at the cosmos. And I'll tell you a quick anecdote about him, which is when President Barack Obama wanted to throw a stargazing party on the White House lawn, who does he call to throw the stargazing party? None other than our speaker today, Derrick Pitts. So he gets to hang out at the White House and throw parties. And I'll leave you with something which I feel deeply in my heart, which is there's a saying which is tied to Confucius and then I think later to Mark Twain, which is if you find yourself a job that you enjoy, you will never work a day in your life. And when I hear that, I think of Derrick Pitts, because I don't know anyone who loves what they do more than Derrick. Please.
Thank you. Great. Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks a lot for having me again, Paul. I really appreciate the opportunity to talk to your saplings, as you refer to them. And I hope I'll be able to share some of my story in a way that'll be entertaining and inspirational. So let me start with a couple of things. First of all, my program today is not really going to be about your career path. It's not going to be directing you toward any particular science or anything like that. I'm not going to describe my educational experience to a great degree so that you can compare yours to mine or any of that sort of stuff. I'm really here today to talk about two things. One, as the flyer says, talking science, increasing science literacy through science communication. And that's sort of a default kind of a title for me because I spend virtually all of my time as a science communicator in various ways, which I'll share with you. But the main piece of my program today comes down to a very, very basic thing that Paul talked about a little bit just to begin. And he said that he doesn't know anyone who enjoys their job as much as I do. And I do. I really love my job. I really love my job. But it comes down to something even more basic than that. Sometimes people are ashamed to say this or they won't say it out loud or anything like that, but I will every time. And it is that I love science. I love science. I love science. I absolutely love science. I love science. I've always loved science. I always will love science, and I'm not ashamed to say I love science. Why though? The reason why is because I find it endlessly fascinating. There's always something great going on all the time, all the time, all the time. Now I focus on astronomy. I'm an astronomer. I'm so lucky because in astronomy, there's always some galaxy colliding, some star exploding, something happening that's just phenomenal. And if you look at any of these kinds of phenomena, I don't care if it's astronomy or biology or physics or geology or anything, there's always something absolutely amazing, just amazing. So let's pull some stuff that's absolutely amazing from here or from there or wherever, just as examples. So first example I can think of is the sheer number of galaxies in the universe. Does anybody have any kind of a ballpark number as to the number of galaxies in the universe? No hands yet? What do you say? Oh yeah, go ahead.
Well, it's not a number, but I heard there's like more galaxies than there are like grains of sand or something.
Well, thank you very much. That's a really great example. Yeah, it typically is that there are more stars in the galaxy than there are grains of sand on the beach. But I'll accept that. The reason why is because there are more galaxies than there are grains of sand in the universe. It's amazing how many galaxies there are. But let's just put a number in there for a moment. Okay, work with me here. We all know 1,000. We know 10,000. We know 100,000. We know 1,000,000, right? We know 100 million. We know 1,000,000,000. This is the first one that really gets me. 1,000,000,000 is 1,000 million. Okay? 1,000 million. A trillion is 1,000 billion. Can you think of any other item that ever shows us that many items? Ever. Any phenomenon that shows us anywhere near coming to that number. Grains of sand is a really good one. Anything else? In your common everyday life. That happened to you today. That really happened to you yesterday. Rain. Rain. Thunderstorm. How many raindrops do you think are in a thunderstorm? Can you think of 1,000,000,000 of anything? Just 1,000,000,000 of anything. Can you think of 1,000,000,000 of anything? Anything other than raindrops. Dollars. Yes. Right. What's the closest connection to that we have seen in the news recently?
There's a trillionaire now, right?
I'm sorry?
There's a trillionaire now?
Yes. Elon Musk. First, on paper trillionaire. What's the value? Well,
How much is he?
maybe he's a trillionaire.
Yeah, he's a trillionaire.
But the value of the IPO was 1.7 trillion or something like that. Yeah, amazing. So that means that that person has an on-paper value of more than 1,000 billion. Okay, so let's go back to the science part. Just the sheer number. Now that's galaxies, okay? How many stars in a galaxy? Trillion? Maybe a big galaxy. Let's take a more average size galaxy. 1,000? 350 billion is the number of stars in a galaxy like ours. 350 billion stars in one galaxy. Okay, the math nerds here, please. If you'll do the multiplication, what is 350 billion times 1 trillion? All together now? I have no idea. It's a number I cannot even conceive of. I can't even think of what that number is. But you get the idea of scale. Can you just imagine how amazing it is? That's just the beginning of the amazement of the universe, is when we think of 1 trillion galaxies times 350 billion stars. Looks like you're working it out.
It's like 3.5 e to like the 56, 46, something
Thank you.
around there.
Yeah, very good. Excellent.
It's not a number I can say.
Exactly. It's not a number you can say. I'll bet you can't even think of what that looks like.
There's not enough things.
There's no way.
stars.
No. Okay, so there's some of the astronomy stuff. Okay, that's really great. Let's do something else. Let's do geology. One of my other favorite stuff. In geology, we know what rock is. Solid stuff, right? Immovable, all that kind of stuff. We know that earthquakes occur. We also know that volcanoes occur. Do you also know that under the correct temperatures, under temperatures and pressures high enough, solid rock flows like toothpaste? Have you ever seen an example of that? Where solid rock has flowed like toothpaste? You can find it if you look around at various road cuts as you're traveling around the country. You'll see places where a layer of rock seems to be traveling horizontally, and then it does something really weird. It takes a weird bend and then continues. And that bend is there because at some point, the temperature and the pressure of the environment in which that rock was sitting was high enough that the rock itself became plastic enough to bend and twist. Now, it's hard to imagine that rock can do that, but inside the Earth, happens all the time. Happens all the time. Let's talk about inside the human body. This is not my bailiwick. It's not my area of expertise, so I'm really generalized. But imagine the number of reactions, chemical reactions that happen inside your body all the time to keep it actually working, to keep it happening. Imagine at the molecular level what's going on with energy transfer. You don't even think about it. You get up in the morning. Well, that's the first thing. You get up in the morning. You ask your body to provide the energy. You ask your body to move. So you call on your cells to provide the energy for your muscles to get together and do the work. And they do the work, and you get up. And then you start your active day. And you go throughout your entire day with no thought about it, except you decide, I think I need a cheeseburger from Shake Shack as a way to refuel yourself, to keep all this stuff going. But when you look at it at the biological molecular level, it's an amazing machine your body is that allows you to do everything that you do. It's crazy how it does that. But this is the world of science. There's always something wild and great happening all the time. I don't care which discipline you look at. You'll choose what discipline gets you the most excited, and maybe you'll go in that direction. And what will keep you there is the amazement that you'll feel as you learn more and more and more. And this is where I am in astronomy and the world of science. I can't get enough. I can't get enough because there's always something crazy, wild, and wonderful happening all the time. And I'm always interested in sharing that with people for this reason. I really want you to be able to experience some of the joy and pleasure that I have being in this universe with the ability to think about these things. The universe is ordinarily complex. Yet we have the ability, using this 6-pound thing up here, to think some about it. And I always want to share the joy and pleasure that comes to me with others so that you can share some of this joy and pleasure, so you can experience some of what I experience, relishing in the beauty and the complexity and the manifestation of the universe that we see. So basically, this is what my life is all about. This is what I do. I share my joy of understanding some about the universe with everyone else. And I typically share it through the discipline of astronomy. And I do this work at the Franklin Institute Science Museum. People think of the Franklin Institute as a children's museum. I don't really like children. I mean, they're okay everything. Okay everything. I was a child once, I kind of get it. Okay, fine. But really I'm there because I want to share this great experience with everybody else. It happens to be that it's families with kids. So, I'm not saying I don't like this. It's just that I don't want you to get the idea that I work at a science museum because I love working with kids. They happen to be there when they come through. And I'm more than happy to share this knowledge with them because they are not jaded yet. They are not too cool to accept this. So they love learning new stuff. And if I can share new stuff with them that fires their imagination, I love it. It also happens to turn on their parents, and they need to have this kind of stimulation as well because they've gotten into their parental life, they've kind of shut down their curiosity and their inquisitiveness. They're no longer taking in a lot of information about the wonders of the universe. They're just thinking about what has to be made for dinner tonight, what clothes the kids are going to wear to school tomorrow, what they're going to do with the dog, all that kind of stuff. But I want to fire their imagination too, because all of this stuff is really fascinating. And each and every one of you has some particular discipline that you find really exciting. Mine is astronomy, or geology, or physics, or biology. I can't tell which one it is today, but I love them all. How about you? Do you have some particular discipline, something that you find unbelievably exciting and interesting? What do you think? What do you have? What do you have? Whatever.
I really like chemistry, specifically like chemistry within the body. Like I like the brain a lot. I love the chemicals that like go on there, and then how the body responds to like something like as simple as like pressure, light. We're so sensitive to our surroundings. And then those sensitivities can like transfer into like chemical responses.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Anybody else? Anybody else have something that really just they can't get enough of? Doesn't have to be science, by the way. I'm not talking about just science. Anything. Yes.
I would say also biology. I know you said biology, but like really cellular biology, like just a thing, like all those, like there's so many processes going on at once, like inside of that little thing. It's very.
It's incredible. It's unbelievable. The more I learn about it, the more fascinated I am. I keep wanting to change disciplines when I learn something new. Anybody else? Anything? Yes.
I think history is pretty fascinating, especially how it's cyclical and how important it is to document everything, and how important it is to look at how like so many people have come by and discovered so many great things, like changed it.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, of course. Right. Anybody else? Anything. Not in the career path, anything. Anything. The world is endlessly fascinating. There's way too much stuff out there. Okay, for example, maybe this will stimulate somebody else to think of something. I love music. I love all kinds of music. All kinds of music. You know what I'm into right now? Hildegard von Bingen. Anybody know who Hildegard von Bingen is? Yeah.
Want me to answer?
Yeah, okay.
She was, I think, a nun.
Mhm.
And I can't remember what century she lived in, but quite a long, long time ago. She was an extraordinary person. I think did more than music as well, right? Wasn't she also like a philosopher and things like that?
Yeah, she was. Hildegard von Bingen was a nun that lived at an abbey, and she wrote choral music. She wrote my bad. Gregorian chant. Gregorian chant. Have you ever heard Gregorian chant? Look it up sometime and listen to it. You're going to say, that guy is nuts. But I really like it. So it doesn't have to be in science, but if you have a passion for something, you can use that passion to try. And what you get out of that is you get incredible personal rewards. You get incredible personal satisfaction. What I get from my job that my employers do not know is the level of personal satisfaction I have in my job. And part of the reason why is because my job is so multifaceted. Now, what do I do for Franklin Institute? I write and produce planetarium shows. I create content for exhibits. I manage the observatory, the telescope. I create all kinds of public programs. I do a tremendous amount of television news. I do a tremendous amount of radio stuff. I do a tremendous amount of online internet stuff. I've done almost every kind of television programming there is to do, to the point where I've almost said, stop, I don't want to do any more television anymore. I've been on all the late night TV programs. I've done 6 Nova programs now. 6 Nova programs, me, 6 programs. Can you imagine? I can't imagine. I can't believe it. And not only that, but I'm a NASA Solar System Ambassador. Somebody asked me what a NASA Solar System Ambassador is, please.
What is it?
A NASA Solar System Ambassador. Here's what I did with that question one day when Mike Jarrett from Fox 29 News asked me when I was on the set one morning, oh, I hear you're a NASA Solar System Ambassador. This follows your story, Paul. He said, this is a Solar System Ambassador too. On air, live, with a straight face, I said, whenever aliens come to this planet, they have to check in with me first to get their permits and permissions for any kind of abductions or medical testing they'd like to do. And he said, really? And I said, no, that's not what I do. No. What I get to do as a NASA Solar System Ambassador is I get to create public programs on behalf of NASA that talk about all of the kind of exploratory work that NASA has done with space probes throughout the solar system, which is amazing because NASA has sent space probes to every planet of the solar system. As an ambassador, I have access to materials that other people don't have so that I can give really, really good presentations about the work that NASA's done. I also do a tremendous amount of work for a group called AUI, which is the organization that manages all of the largest radio telescopes around the world. I also work for Mauna Kea Observatory in Hawaii, which may or may not eventually be the home of the world's largest telescope ever built. 30-meter telescope. I actually worked on that telescope for about 5 years, but it still hasn't been constructed yet. And I've also done work at a place called Hale Observatories in Pasadena, California. And I'll come back to that in a second. But let me give you a little bit more background here. There's me sitting out there outside the Franklin Institute. My slide presentation, it's not about me. It's about this great experience I've had in this career of science, being able to do all this really cool stuff through the Franklin Institute. I stumbled into the Franklin Institute one day when I was a sophomore in college looking for a summer job. Just looking for a summer hookup, a summer gig, something to do for the summer. I'm still there. I'm still there because it's such a great job. I call it the velvet handcuffs job. The velvet handcuffs. Why? I'll never leave. I'll never leave, probably. But It's great because I get to do so much cool stuff and get paid for it. Those idiots pay me. I can't believe I get away with them paying. So this is me at the world's most advanced observatory in Hawaii, Mauna Kea Observatory. I'm standing on the catwalk of the Canada, France, Hawaii 4-meter telescope, looking out at, right up at the top here, the twin Keck telescopes, the Subaru 8-meter telescope, and I forget which one that is. This is on top of the tallest volcano in Hawaii. The air up here is 40% less oxygen than at sea level. It's a beautiful day. It's about 1 o'clock in the afternoon, but the temperature at the summit up there is about 35 degrees, and the wind is about 30 miles an hour. And this is during the day, lovely during the day, but you can hardly breathe up there. But you get to work up there if you have astronomy work to do. But the cool thing about working in Hawaii is you go to the observatory, do your work in the telescope, with the telescope at night, and then the next morning, you're in Hawaii. So you do all those cool Hawaiian things, right? So what I used to do was work at the observatory at night, get done, and then I'd go back to the hotel and jump in the ocean at 6 o'clock in the morning and swim for an hour before I went to breakfast. Then I'd sleep a little bit, do some other cool stuff in the afternoon, like go visit some of the volcano observatories, not this kind of observatory, but places where you can actually study the volcanic activity. Then I'd grab something to eat for late afternoon for dinner and then go back to the observatory and work. And get paid. And get paid. This is a dream I've had about doing since I was this big. This is me and my 5-year older brother sitting in a chair in the house where we grew up. You can tell which one I am. I'm the handsome one, right? Well, since I was this age, I've known I've wanted to do science. And right after this, maybe a year later, I knew I wanted to do astronomy. And so this has been a dream I've had ever since then, to do this kind of work. And I've been able to do almost everything there is. Born and raised in Philly, I went to Gillespie Junior High School, went to Cleveland Elementary School, 19th and Butler Street. If you know North Philly at all, that's where this is, right next to Gratz High School. I got an opportunity from this school to go to a private school, Germantown Academy in Fort Washington, which was the first big choice I ever had to make in my life for what I wanted to do for my educational career. I took the chance to do this against the better judgment of so many other people. In fact, about 6 other friends of mine were offered the opportunity to go to Germantown Academy. They all turned it down. I was the only one to go. But for me, this is where an opportunity showed up for me to go in a different direction and pursue a different pathway. And fortunately, the opportunity came my way for a very important reason that I want to impart to you today. There's this little formula I go by. Everybody says, oh man, you have a great career. You've done all this really cool stuff. You've been so lucky. I have not been lucky at all. Well, barely, only a little bit. What's happened is an opportunity has come my way for which I have been prepared. And when the opportunity showed up and I was prepared, well, then I could take advantage of it. That's not luck, is it? No, it's being prepared for an opportunity. And part of my message that I also always try to impart is that you need to be as prepared as possible for whatever it is you think you want to do. Whatever it is you think you want to do, you need to be as prepared as possible. If you're prepared, then whatever opportunity comes along, it's available to you. It won't be available to the next person because they're not as prepared as you are. And what these opportunities look for is people who are prepared. So you can't half-step and think you're going to get to Mauna Kea Observatory as an observer. You can't do that because the competition is too stiff. But if you're into it because you love it, guess what? competition doesn't mean anything because you're working at your highest level anyway. So competition falls to the wayside because you're way ahead just because you love it. Now, in my case, I always talk about this in relation to astronomy. But if you're a guitarist, the only way you can become known as the best guitarist in the world is if you can practice that craft to the point where you are better than anybody else. It's the only way you get there. But if you love it, it's not so hard. I've never worked, I shouldn't say it that way, but it's pretty close. I've never worked a day in my life. Never. Why? Because I play all the time. That's what I do at Franklin Institute. I play. So this was on the bedroom. This was on the bedroom wall at my home when I was 12 years old. This image of the Andromeda Galaxy. As I already said, I had the opportunity then to go out to the observatory at Mauna Kea and actually collect data from that galaxy with a totally different kind of telescope. The Sloan Digital Sky Survey instruments took spectra of multiple galaxies in the evening sky on an aluminum plate, using a very sophisticated apparatus to collect all this information, and that galaxy happened to be one of them. Very, very cool. So you saw the title of this program. It said something about teachers and stuff like that. So I'm forever grateful to my teachers for the acknowledgement of my interest in this, the empowerment that they provided for me to continue with this, and the encouragement to do so. Without that, I don't think I would have done this. I probably wouldn't have seen the light, but I was able to see the light because of that. And here are some of the early influencers. Miss Chern's Secret Identity. I wasn't the best kid in class in 5th grade. Not the best. I didn't perform as well as I could have, but guess what? Turns out Miss Chern was way ahead of me because, unbeknownst to me, she and my mother had been close friends since childhood, and they never told me. So anything I did in class always got home before I did, and I never could figure out how. It wasn't until after I got out of 5th grade that I found out that they were very good friends. And then the 8th grade chemistry department internship. So here's me creating an opportunity for myself. 8th grade, interested in science. What do 8th grade kids who are interested in science always want to do? It's a chemistry day. What do they always want to do? I'm sorry?
Volcano?
Volcano, yes, what else? Somebody else said something?
Make things together.
Excuse my French? Blow shit up. Right? Okay. Blow stuff up. That's what kids in 8th grade want to do with science. Okay? So I found a perfect opportunity. I had an opportunity to work with a teacher that showed me how to make a chemical volcano. And I used to do chemical volcano demonstrations for assembly. Great. Then what I did was I convinced the science teachers that it would be a good idea to allow me to organize the chemical closet in the teacher's lab, which they mistakenly allowed me to do. They actually gave me a key to the closet so that I could do this work in between class times. Okay, great. So what did I use this for? I used this for an opportunity for me to create my own chemistry internship. Wow. I taught myself, learned how to build smoke bombs, contact explosives, all kinds of fun stuff like that. I had a wonderful time. And of course, the teachers thought, oh, it's just, putting things together. They never knew I never let on that. Still, I was having a great time. It was fabulous. My own little internship. I created my own internship. Lots of fun. Anyway, Germantown Academy, blah, 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 blah. I had a good time there and started doing this work at Franklin Institute when I was very young, back in my early 20s. This is doing a liquid nitrogen demonstration at Franklin Institute, what we call pre-OSHA, back before we followed any rules and regulations about safety or anything like that. The place should have been burned down long ago because of our ignorance of OSHA rules and regulations. We now follow them very closely. But you'll notice, goggles? Nope. Gloves? Nope. Lab coat? Nope. Nothing. Back in the Wild West days of science presentation at Franklin Institute. But then, of course, I started doing much more astronomy work and graduated into this field where I'm doing this kind of stuff, helping people understand how the night sky works. Again, it's all about sharing my enthusiasm for this and helping people understand the beauty of the universe so that they can derive some of the same joy and pleasure that I do out of it. Part of my work in this really evolves into science communication in a really big way. Nowadays, we're used to the concept of science communicator. Every one of you probably knows at least one science communicator. Can you name one science communicator you know? Yes. Bill Nye. There you go. Bill Nye, science communicator. Great. Another one? Neil deGrasse Tyson. Very good. Any others? Mark Rober. I'm sorry? Mark Rober. Mark Rober, yes. Science communicator. Yes?
Pink, green.
Yes, right. Yeah. Anybody else?
He doesn't like say his name, but his name is the organic chemistry tutor online.
Organic chemistry tutor online.
Yeah.
I don't know who that is, but okay.
His videos, they're amazing.
And there's one more. Oh, come on. Throw me a bone. Yes. I'm just playing with you. Yes. Yes, I am a science communicator nowadays. I've grown into this role. In fact, when I started at Franklin Institute, this role did not exist. This role did not exist. The position I have at Franklin Institute, chief astronomer, the chief scientist position at Franklin Institute did not exist when I started there. I created that position. That position was created for me, and other chief scientists have had other appointments at Franklin Institute. But I hold that position first at Franklin Institute because I ran through everything else and they had no other title. So I was assigned as chief astronomer, chief scientist first, and then chief astronomer with other chief scientists to follow. My work as a science communicator is exactly how I've described it to you, in that I work with visitors in the building through exhibits, through planetarium programs. I used to work directly in exhibits. I also used to run the IMAX theater at Franklin Institute, so I had that part tied up for a while. And then I started doing a tremendous amount of media, which you're now used to seeing people do on television. So Neil deGrasse Tyson is a very good example. The work that Neil deGrasse Tyson does now, I was doing that 20 years before Neil deGrasse Tyson ever showed up on the scene. I do know him very well. We are good friends. He handles one part of that, I handle a different part of that. So what's really amazing to me these days is if you dig just a little bit, you'll find that two of the three most prominent science communicators in the United States these days are Black. Neil deGrasse Tyson and me. That's a really cool thing. Not necessarily where I planned to head, but the evolution of my work took me there. So I've been on all of the news programs, all of the late night programs. I worked in Hollywood. I did all this kind of stuff, all that kind of nonsense, until I got tired of it because it was just too much. Right? It wasn't really reaching the audiences the way I wanted it to reach audiences. So in any case, I still do that work. And part of the work I do that I'm going to add to the story that you mentioned is Kathy O'Connell retiring after how many years? 40 years? Almost 40 years? I first started on the Kids Corner program the first year it began. And I was the astronomy guy on the Kids Corner radio program every month for 30 years. Actually, 33 years. Every month. Great fun. But again, it's about the science communication part. I'm not imparting this because I want to talk about me. I'm saying this because if you love science, there are so many different ways that you can express your interest, so many paths that you can follow, so many ways in which you can feed your curiosity and share your enthusiasm with the rest of the world at the same time. And that's a really important thing because for a long time, scientists, well, it's been on up until very recently, scientists have been, it's always been a real challenge for scientists to connect with the general public, to help them understand, the general public understand what their work is and the significance and importance of their work. And that disconnect has caused a lot of challenges and problems in the world. Now, if you think about science education in general, we need as much help getting people to a basic level of an understanding of science. We need so much help doing that because the challenges that are coming down the pipe for humanity over the next 50 to 100 years are going to require that the general public have some sense of basic science and some way to appreciate that basic science because of how it will affect their lives, but how it's going to affect their environment and the world in general. And it turns out that it's actually the responsibility of the scientists to make sure that people understand that. Because if they can't get the general public to understand it, then the general public can't buy into what it is they're trying to sell. And that's really important because to solve these problems, we all have to be in on them. We all have to understand it. We all have to want to. But if we don't understand what's happening, we're not going to do it. So here's a picture of me taking a very, very close look with a magnifying glass at the original telescope first used by Galileo Galilei, the guy who actually sort of invented the telescope. Back during the Renaissance period, Galileo used the telescope to look at the moon, Venus, Jupiter, Saturn, the sun with sunspots, and he was the first to write about it in a vernacular language, not Latin, but in the language that was spoken at the time in Italy and throughout Europe, so that people could not only understand what he was doing, but as a marketing tool for himself, so that people would see, oh, this guy's a really good scientist. He knows what he's doing. Let's support him. Let's give him the financial support he needs to continue doing what he's doing. Galileo's a shrewd guy. He knew that by writing in that way about this new field would garner him the fame that he wanted. That would allow him then to press the science further. He got into trouble with the Catholic Church. Things worked out eventually in the end. We all now know that the sun is at the center of the solar system, so he prevailed anyway. Just took a little while to get that done. But that telescope here in Philadelphia, when it came to Philadelphia, what was it now, 15 years ago, it was the first time it had ever left the museum where it lived in Italy, came to the Franklin Institute. It was under my auspices that the telescope was here. I'm a Black kid from North Philly. I grew up in a row house. I have the Master's telescope in my hands. Can I ever imagine anything better than that to happen to me? Hardly. But it's all that way just because I love it. That's the reason why. Just because I love it. So big telescopes down in Chile. I go down there and work at those places. It's really great. The instruments are amazing. They're incredible. But there's hardly any access. Only people at the highest echelons can get into these places, blah, 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 blah. You get the picture. You look at really cool stuff like that. This is me with George Takei from Star Trek, sitting on the set of the Star Trek exhibit when it came to the Franklin Institute. George and I are pretty good friends. I've known him for a while. This is me on the set of the morning news for CBS with Gayle King and all these other people. I used to do that on a regular basis. Let's see, blah, 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 yeah, blah, blah, blah. And then this is the world's largest steerable radio telescope in the world. West Virginia. The organization that manages this is AUI. I'm on the board of trustees for this organization. There's a meeting 2 weeks from now in West Virginia. We'll talk about how to use these big telescopes around the world, including the ones in South America that we manage. So because I'm a board member, I get to go to these observatories, check all this stuff out. Guess who pays for it? Them. I don't have to pay anything. So, hold on. Hawaii, South America, where else did I mention? Chile, a few other places? Yeah, all in somebody else's dime. This is me down at NASA headquarters. This is the family of Katherine Johnson. Leland Melvin is the astronaut out here on the far side. I was at their Black History Month presentation a couple of years ago at their invitation as they were honoring Katherine Johnson. St. Lawrence University is a small co-ed, I shouldn't say co-ed anymore, a small liberal arts college I went to in Northern New York that gave me a really great education in how to be a student. And that, of course, really helped me as becoming a scientist because it taught me how to study, which I really needed a lot of help with, but it worked out really well. This is me on the Colbert Report some years ago. Stephen Colbert had his own show before and then went to the Late Show. So I was on his program with him a couple of times. I also did the Late Show in Hollywood a couple of times with Wayne Brady. Yeah, I used to do that on a frequent basis. Another famous Philadelphian, Guy Bluford, is a four-time space shuttle astronaut. He and I are very good friends. If I weren't an astronomer, I would have been an astronaut. That's what I really wanted to do. I really wanted to do that. But guess what? I was too tall when the program started when I was a kid. There were no role models of color. I had no idea how to do it because I couldn't see anybody that looked like me. But Bluford and I are good friends. But as a result of my interest, I've flown all kinds of things in space. This is one of them, artifacts that I've created myself that I then shared with astronaut friends who took them into space on their request. This particular one, the commander of STS Space Shuttle 135, called me one day and said, "Would you like to fly something in space on this last space shuttle mission?" And I said, "Yes, I would. Can it be 6'4" tall and weigh 180 pounds?" And he said, "No, you can't go." Okay, can I send this instead? So I sent this and that worked out fine. It's now back in Philadelphia. It's flown in space. I don't know how many times now. It sits on my desk. And this is the New Horizon that everybody's looking at, is heading off to Mars. I'm not really closely associated with this except in one little way. And that is when I first started work at Franklin Institute, one of the projects I worked on for NASA was to analyze satellite photographs of the surface of Mars in 1976. Black and white images, very low resolution. It was at that point, at that time, just looking at the surface of Mars that was easily identifiable that there had been liquid flowing on the surface of Mars. It looked just like river channels, riverbeds, and everything else you see that are examples of fluvial erosion. Oh, let me go back to that one more time there. So I'm forever grateful to my teachers for teaching me too. Take a look at this list of things. Some of them seem pretty basic, but they are extraordinarily important. I learned how to read. My father was the son of a Georgia sharecropper. If you met my father, you'd think he was just an old Southern gentleman. My father was a technician of the highest order. He worked for the United States Navy as a radar technician for 35 years. I thought he could fix anything until I learned his secret. His secret was if he needed to learn how to fix some kind of sophisticated electronic device, and he never told me this, but I found out, he'd go to the free library. He'd get a book that explained how it worked. And he used that book to figure out how to fix the device. Reading is such an important thing. I've been able to learn anything through reading. So think critically, ask questions, take chances, be open to new experiences, understand failure as a part of the learning process. I've fallen down a zillion times, but I always get back up with a new understanding of where I'm going and how to get there. But here's one that's really been important for me that I recommend for you. Take chances and be open to new experiences. Take chances and be open to new experiences. 3 years ago, I got a call from Jared Isaacman. Jared Isaacman. Did anybody know that name? Jared Isaacman is the current administrator of NASA. His agent on the other end of the phone said, hey, Jared has bought 5 seats on a SpaceX Crew Dragon for a mission coming up this September to orbit the Earth for 4 days. If you want to go, you have a seat. Here's all you have to do. This, and this. That's all you have to do, and you can go. 4 days orbiting the Earth. Oh, wow. Space. Right there in the palm of my hand. I'm looking at the thing I've dreamt about forever. You know what it takes to become an astronaut? Crazy. There it is. Right there. Right there. Why did it come to me? Because I've been willing to take chances and be open to new experiences. That's why. Did I do it? No. Why not? Why not, Jessica? If you had to say, why didn't you do it? Because I thought critically. I thought critically. I knew that that spacecraft had never flown that mission profile before. 4 days in orbit around the Earth. I knew that all of the other people on board had no space experience at all. 0. I also knew that the craft was not big enough to have a private bathroom. So I made a critical choice and said, no way. It was the first mission of its kind, no bathroom, nobody on board with any experience. Do I want to do that? I'm not crazy. But if another chance comes along with the right situation, I'm going for sure. Okay, so there I am back at Mauna Kea Observatory again. I'm there because I've always been open to new possibilities, because I love science, because I love communicating science. And what I do with all these opportunities is I help to tell other people about it. Here's my latest experience with this. This is a photograph of the Indian Ocean looking west back in February, around February 15th. I was standing on the back end of a ship called Le Belleau, owned by the Ponant Expedition Cruising Company. Why am I there? I'm there because they have invited me to join a 2-week trip from East Africa out to the Seychelles Islands as an astronomer working with their guests to point out objects in the night sky. Now, some discipline you're interested in. Think of that discipline. Think about some very basic facts of that discipline, the most basic things you can think of. Think of the basic things you can think of. Think of 5 of them. 5 of the most basic. The most basic. Just think of the most basic. Imagine having someone invite you to take a 2.5-week trip to East Africa to cruise around a bunch of islands, and all you have to do is every 3 or 4 days, you talk about these 5 things. All expenses paid, all your food, all your everything on this really incredible trip. Free. Free. All you have to do is talk about these basic things. Not bad, huh? And somebody pays me for this. It's crazy. So here's my wife and I with the captain of the ship. Had a fun time with the captain one night. This is my last slide, by the way. I had a fun time with the captain one night, just as an example of how you can push things along a little bit. Captain comes up to the deck where I'm working, pointing out to the 75 people who are on this cruise, stars in the night sky. The captain is standing just to my right here. He has a French accent. It's a French ship. I'm telling the audience what's up there, and the captain says, "Oh, and look, there's the Big Dipper over there." And I said, "No, that's not. The Big Dipper is over here. You drive the ship, I'll point out the stars." So that immediately established who I was, put him where he belonged, and we have a great relationship. Perfect. You do your business, I'll do mine. Why is this? Why did this? Because I love science. Because I love what I do. Because I want to share what I do with other people. And I get to do all this great stuff with all these great benefits in this job that I call the velvet handcuffs. Do I want to give this up? Do I want to give this up? Or I get to do a cruise for 2.5 weeks every couple of months at somebody else's expense somewhere else in the world? Science. It takes you places you never would have imagined you could go if you're only willing to take some chances. So that's basically the story. This is all about science communication, about helping people better understand. And I hope that in whatever discipline you choose, whether it's science or art or math or anything, I hope that you too can arrive at a place where you can feel and appreciate the same joy that I do out of this, and you can accomplish the same kinds of dreams that you want to accomplish in your field as well. Stick to it. Stand up for it. Go get it. It's there for you to get. If you are the best in your field, people will come to you. They'll come to you. They'll ask for you. Happens to me all the time. And they will pay you for what you're willing to share with them. And you're having a great life in the meantime. So, thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to share this information with you. I hope it's been useful in some way or another. Maybe it doesn't come to you today. Maybe it comes to you sometime from now. But whatever you do, I wish you the best of luck. And I hope you too can have the same joy and experiences that I've had. Thank you. I'll take questions. Any questions? Yes.
Since you've like seen so many different like planets, galaxies, do you have a favorite?
Favorite galaxy?
Yeah, or like a favorite planet, star system.
So I do. I think my favorite planet is Jupiter
Why?
because of the dynamics of the clouds. There's so much there's so much display of dynamism in the Jovian atmosphere that shows in the cloud tops. I love to see that because it shows that there's some process going on there. We don't understand the process, but we can see that there's something going on there, and it's always fun to learn about it. Most of the times people would think that, oh yeah, it must be Saturn because of the rings. Yeah, that's kind of cool, right? There's some cool stuff going on Saturn, but I really like Jupiter instead. I really enjoy that. So that's kind of fun. Yeah.
On a normal day at the Franklin Institute, what would you do?
A normal day. Yeah, there's like no such thing as a normal day. But basically what I do is I go to the Franklin Institute and I attend to the various projects I have going on. So whether it's making sure that the observatory is operating properly, putting in some time writing some content for a planetarium show, putting in some time writing content for exhibits, communicating with colleagues around the world about various projects and this and that and this and that, or I'm building something. For the last total solar eclipse, I invented this really cool thing, which is a solar eclipse viewing tent. You know those canopy tents that you just set up? They're like folding canopy tents, and you set them up. What I did was I took 5 of those, and I had holes cut in the canopies of each one. And for each one of those holes, I created a filter that fits in that spot that allows you to view the sun directly without any eye damage. Normally, you would just say, well, why don't you just use solar eclipse glasses? Well, I could do that, but then it's a singular experience. But if I make it so that a family can stand together underneath and look up and see it, then everybody can share the experience together. And then it takes on a different meaning because they did it with a group of people that they wanted to be with, or they did it with a group of people. It's like the difference between going to see a FIFA game, one person in the audience, or 75,000 people. So typical day. But the typical day, now here's the other thing for a typical day, the phone. Phone rings. One time the phone rang, it was a friend of mine calling to tell me that White House is going to have a star party. They need you to come down to set up telescopes on the White House lawn. I get that kind of crazy phone call all the time. You know, hello, this is the booking agent calling from the Late Late Show with Craig Ferguson. Can you come out and be on the show next week? All the time I get that kind of crazy phone call. Other questions? Yes.
From like when you started working at the institute, like getting all these like high profile opportunities, did you like do a lot of reaching out to get those opportunities, or did they like just come to you as you worked there for more?
No, what I did was I built networks. I built networks with my colleagues, and then the other thing that happens often, or that was happening at that time in media, is that if you do work for a local media, what happens is the national agency also sees that, or your name will get passed along. And that's how those opportunities showed up. So a lot of that kind of stuff happened. But, you know, the network was getting pretty big between the astronomers, the astronauts, the news people, and all that other sort of stuff. You know, your name kind of gets out there. Kind of goes like that. So, yes.
A lot of places. You think like setbacks or challenges all the way.
So the setbacks and challenges along the way, there are plenty of those. There are plenty of those challenges, and often it's a question of you know, how you carry yourself and how you deal with the challenge. So one of the challenges I've run into consistently is that I'm a person of color in a field that's almost totally white in astronomy or space exploration. There, you know, as I was coming through, there were hardly any other Black people. So what I always had to do was I always had to assert myself as I'm supposed to be here. I don't know what you're questioning me for. You need to question yourself. Don't question me. I'm here because I'm doing this, and this. So, you know, come back later when you figure it out, kind of thing. And keep moving, keep pushing forward. So whenever there have been challenges or so some of the setbacks tended to be financial setbacks where you maybe apply for a grant for something and you don't get the money because you didn't really meet the criteria of the grant. So you fix things up and go on from there. But the thing is, never stop, never stop, never stop, because every time this door closed, 5 other doors open. 5. So I get my pick of these other doors. So I go to the other door. That door closes. I got 5 others to choose from. Keep going. Never let anybody tell you no. There's always another way. Always, always, always. And I always just went the other way. And you know what? I took no time for resentment at all. None. Because resentment didn't buy me one thing. Didn't buy me anything. Didn't buy me anything. Didn't work against somebody else either. Resentment does not do anything for you. What does something for you is when you keep going and find another way to go. Other questions? Yes.
what was like that deciding moment for you to go towards like science communication rather than like wanting like your academia, like reading the literature about?
Yeah, that's a really great question because typically you would say that anyone that has this level of interest in science would immediately think about, well, you know, you want to do bench research, you want to be a professor, you want to do all that kind of stuff. And I discovered that I am way too much of a people person to do bench research. And what I really want to do is I want to share an understanding of the universe with everybody else. That's basically what I want to do. I just want to slam everybody with my own ball of science. So I couldn't, and I also didn't want to have to chase grant funding. I didn't want to teach in a university, didn't want to do any of those kinds of things. Those things weren't for me. Plenty of other people thought, just not for me. So I was lucky enough to be able to push my way along in a field that didn't exist. I mean, that's the other thing, folks, really briefly, is that the career I have now did not exist at Franklin Institute. I kind of created this career at Franklin Institute. And now you'll find that there are science educators and science museums everywhere. And there's people like Bill Nye and Neil deGrasse Tyson and Green and all these other folks. You know, they're all there now, and they're all part of our fabric, and we're kind of like used to it. But when I was along, it was like nobody was doing science communication. But I was having a great time because the Franklin Institute, fools that they were, gave me the complete latitude to do anything I wanted. And I did anything I wanted to do to present science to the general public. Anything. I'm telling you, we blew up so much stuff. We created all kinds of things that never would be able to fly today, Franklin. Never.
So I want to thank you very, very much.
My pleasure.
Let's give Derrick Pitts another.
Well, thank you mostly for your willingness to listen to me. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that.
Seeing you reminds me of the infectiousness of science. And I witnessed something that really kind of blew me away, which was around the time my kids were born, some 25 years ago or so. The physics department at Rutgers, or just a little before that, started doing Christmas physics lectures, Faraday lectures, I think they're called, is that right? And this is an ancient tradition that I guess began in England, where they started giving popular lectures. When was he? 100 years ago or something like that?
Yeah.
These popular lectures at Christmas time for physics, and they had to do them in a physics educational amphitheater. And the first year they did it, there were like 60 people in the room, and word of mouth spread, and it got like bigger and bigger and bigger, and then they had to do it in like overflow rooms. And then they had to do 2 days of lectures, remember?
Yeah.
And it just kept, like, people couldn't get enough of this because they were blowing things up and all that stuff. But all they were doing was teaching how awesome science was. And it just it was so infectious. Like, kids could not get enough of this. So yes, you do have the most awesome job there.
I have the most awesome job.
So thank you so much.
Sure, my pleasure. Thanks, guys.